There is a specific kind of dismissal that the music industry produces that is not announced, not explained, and not delivered directly to the person it concerns. It happens in the gap between what was scheduled and what is scheduled now. In the phone call that comes through a manager's office. In the revised promotional materials that arrive with a different name where a familiar name used to be. Etta James received this dismissal in the early 1970s. The specific festival, a major outdoor event with a booking list that represented the current landscape of the music industry, had scheduled her as a significant act. Her name had been in the promotional materials. Her slot had been confirmed through the standard channels of the touring business. And then it had been revised. The revision arrived with the specific language that these revisions arrived with: scheduling conflicts, logistical changes, the need to restructure the program. The language was professional and imprecise in the particular way that professional language is imprecise when the truth it is covering is something the people using it would prefer not to state directly. The truth was that a younger act, whose commercial profile was currently more aligned with what the festival audience was expected to want, was a better fit for the slot. Etta James was 32 years old. She had been performing for 15 years. She had recordings that were standards, songs that had become part of the permanent fabric of American popular music. She was not a declining artist. She was an artist whose commercial profile had not kept pace with the shift in the industry's attention, whose records were not producing the chart numbers that the promotional machinery required to justify the booking. The replacement was announced. The festival moved on with its planning. Etta James was no longer on the program. What happened over those nights at the small venue has been described by the people who attended in terms that the festival, with its larger stages and larger numbers, would not have been able to produce. The first night, the crowd was not large by festival standards, but it was a crowd that had come specifically to see her, not a festival audience distributing its attention across a multi-stage event. A room full of people who had chosen, specifically, to be where Etta James was going to perform. She performed as though the festival did not exist. Not defiantly. There was nothing in the performance addressed to the festival or to the decision about her booking. The performance simply had the quality that Etta James's performances always had when she was fully present. The quality of a room being given something that could only be given once, in exactly this way, by exactly this person. By the second night, the crowd had grown, not because of promotional material, there was none, because people who had been at the first night had gone back into the music community and said what they had seen, and the saying of it had reached people who then came to see for themselves. The third night was full, not with the numbers of the festival, but full in the specific sense that a room is full when the people in it are there because they know what they are about to receive. The festival happened several miles away, with the acts it had selected and the audience it had assembled. But the accounts that have survived from that weekend are not about the festival. They are about the small venue. What she did in response was not what the people paying attention to her career might have predicted. The obvious paths were available. Challenge the dismissal formally, accept the revision and find alternative bookings, or respond to it internally in the specific ways that such dismissals were typically absorbed. She took a fourth path. Through a contact in the local music community, she found a smaller venue, a club, not a concert hall, with a capacity measured in hundreds rather than thousands, within a few miles of the festival grounds. The venue had the kind of relationship with its local audience that small venues develop when they have been part of a music community long enough. An audience that trusted the venue, that showed up without the large-scale promotional machinery that major festivals required, and that had no particular expectations beyond what the stage had historically given them. She booked the venue for the same dates. She did not announce it widely. She did not make a statement about the festival booking or the replacement. She simply arranged to perform in a smaller room while the festival was happening a few miles away. The people who came did not come because of a press release or a promotional campaign. They came because the music community talked, and the music community had said that Etta James was going to be at the small venue during the festival weekend. And the people who heard that knew what it meant to be in a room where Etta James was performing. That distinction matters. The audience that chooses specifically to be somewhere is a different audience from the audience that finds itself somewhere because the schedule placed a performer there. The dismissal from the festival was not reversed. Her commercial profile in the early 1970s did not change in the way that the industry required to change it. The replacement continued to occupy the slot. In the ordinary accounting of the music industry, what had happened was clear. A smaller act had been substituted for a larger name. But the people who were at the small venue that weekend carried something specific. They had been in a room where Etta James had performed for 3 nights while the music industry had decided she was the smaller name. They had received what that room produced when she was fully in it. And what they received was not the performance of an artist whose commercial profile had declined. It was the performance of one of the most complete artists in American popular music, in a room that was exactly the right size to hold what she was capable of. The festival ended. The weekend passed. The industry moved on to its next configuration of who was significant and who was not. Etta James went on to the next date. That is the whole story. There is no dramatic reversal, no formal vindication, no moment when the industry publicly acknowledged that the decision it had made was incorrect. The world did not rearrange itself to reflect what had happened in the small venue. The small venue did not become famous. The weekend did not become a landmark in her career in any officially recognized sense. What it became was a story that the people who were there told for decades. About what it was like to be in a room where someone who had been told they were not the right name for a larger room took a smaller room and gave it everything. Without making a statement about it, without addressing it, simply by performing the way she always performed, for an audience that had chosen to be there, in a room that was exactly the right size for what she was about to give it. The festival happened. Etta James performed in a club 2 miles away. And for the people who were in the club, the ones who had chosen that room over the larger event, what they received that weekend was not a consolation. It was the real thing. It was always the real thing.